Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast, Rivalry Weekend edition, part number one with our leadoff hitter here, Rob Veno at Rob Veno Sports. Robbie, welcome in, buddy. How you feeling?
I am doing good, Drew. How about yourself? It's a nice, holiday week. These Thanksgiving weeks are always jam-packed with all kinds of events to place wagers on. So it's a good week. I like this week, this time of year.
Absolutely, man. I'm excited for it, guys. And we're breaking down each and every game on the card for Rivalry Weekend in college football, guys. And we're starting off with a Thursday night, Thanksgiving night here, Robbie. Mississippi and Mississippi State. We're seeing Ole Miss minus 10-point road favorites, 55.5 being the total. The Egg Bowl, if you will, Rob. And it's pretty cool. Been playing on Thanksgiving night, having something to watch here. Hopefully a belly full of turkey. What do you got for the people to bet in this one?
Well, I would be looking Ole Miss's way in this one, Drew, despite the fact that the numbers gone down. A couple of things here for Mississippi State. First of all, if you're going to bet situational football, you're betting Mississippi State here. If you're going to bet fundamentals, you're probably betting Ole Miss. So I kind of lean towards the fundamentals. But where Mississippi State is concerned, having a healthy Will Rogers back helps. So certainly having their starting quarterback, a reason why maybe this line has gone down just a little bit. And then, of course, when you're Mississippi State playing for bowl eligibility, it helps even more. So Mississippi State sitting here at 5-6 at home against their arch rival, starting quarterback back, bowl eligibility on the line. Certainly Zach Arnett getting fired. The players, you would have to imagine, Drew, like I say, situationally, that they rally here against Ole Miss. But I just don't know that it's enough. I feel like the other team is that much better in all facets of the game. Mississippi State has not come together as an offense all season long, whether it be with Will Rogers or without him. It just hasn't happened for this team, which tried to become a running team rather than the air raid team that they were recruited to be. And as much as I talk about Mississippi State being ready to play, I can guarantee you there's a couple things Lane Kiffin's going to throw out there. He always does in this particular game. So for me, I think I might even, if I were going to recommend something, maybe even wait just a tick longer and see if this game comes down a little more. The public train may follow the early money and push Mississippi State to even a smaller dog, in which case Ole Miss becomes even more attractive. But if I was going to play, I'd look that way, Drew. Total-wise, it's interesting. I'm not one for a lot of unders, and I don't know at this price tag that I would want to play under here either. But I do think Ole Miss is probably the right way to go.
All right, I like it, Robbie. Good start here as we got the Thursday night game in the books, the Egg Bowl. And then, guys, we're going to hit most of the Friday card here to start it off. We got Robbie doing 11 games. Then we will bring in the big man on campus to hit Oregon State, Oregon, down for about the next 11 to 15 games. We get Miami Hurricanes, Boston College kicking us off on Friday here, Robbie. We are seeing the Canes minus 8.5 or minus 9. Bet Online showing Canes minus 9-point road favorites, 47.5 being the total. And we were just talking before you got on. I'm actually right down, not far from the University of Miami, and it's beautiful outside, 70 degrees. And you mentioned that it's not that nice up there in the Northeast right now. And that is something I always worry about. South Florida teams traveling north when the weather's not good, they don't always perform well, Robbie. It's not rocket science, but it's something that I've noticed. What are you thinking here with the Hurricanes and BC?
And they might get away with the wet weather that we're going to have here the next couple of days, Drew. By the time Thanksgiving night comes, it should clear out and be colder, obviously, than it is in South Florida. And you make reference to that traveling up here to Chestnut Hill. It's not sunny by any means, but it should be okay for Miami. What I wonder about is, how does last week's loss affect them? I mean, that was a game against Louisville that, for all intent and purposes, the Hurricanes had a grasp on and then let it go. Tyler Van Dyke came back as the quarterback. Injury forced that, but Van Dyke, in his reemergence, 24 of 39 for 327 yards. They can attack through the air. BC has not been good the last 4 weeks offensively, just 19 points per game, and they might have to keep up here with Miami as long as they handle the cold. It's funny for me to look and see that Boston College is a bowl team, Drew. They're already 6-5. I don't know what's in it for them except last home game, which obviously means something. I do worry, though, about the state of Miami after that loss last week. So I wouldn't trust them to cover the number here, even though I really believe they're the far superior team. Like I say, Boston College, and real quick before I finish it off here, the run defense for Boston College has been miserable. So if nothing else, Miami might be able to hand it off and not even have to go to the air that much or as much as they had to last week. So I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air on this one. Again, situationally, you might like Boston College due to the point you made about warm weather team coming east in November and also Boston College last home game. But again, the other side's the much better team at this point in time. And the Thomas Castellanos dual threat that took a lot of teams by surprise when he became QB for Boston College is really, that luster's worn off and they don't have much else to fall back on.
Robbie, next game up, we're going to be, guys, if you're new to every game on the board, we like our rivalry names. We got one here, Robbie, the Wagon Wheel, Ohio and Akron. It is the Ohio Bobcats, -14, 41 being the total here. And, of course, heading to Akron, Ohio for the Ohio Bobcats and the Akron Zips, fighting for the wagon wheel here, Robbie.
Yeah, I don't know that I could, even if it's for the wagon wheel, I don't know that I could get behind the Zips. What I might be able to get behind is under 41 and a half here. Drew, Ohio used defense. Not only was it good to start the season, and it was projected to be maybe the best amongst all teams inside the MAC. And that's saying a lot because Miami, Ohio, and Toledo were both there. But Ohio U has played terrific defense as of late, and they just grind games. I think, boy, if I remember right, way back to the beginning of the year when we did our very first show, this Ohio U team played San Diego State, and we just talked about length of possession in a Ohio U game and how the under looked good against San Diego State. It came through then. I think it comes through now. Akron has trouble scoring anyway. If you're only going to get 8 to 9 possessions in this ball game, I wonder how Akron can put up enough to send it over. As long as they can avoid true blowout here, Drew, you know, if Ohio U, and they're not one to really get to 35, 38 points. So I don't know that that's much of a consideration here. Again, I don't often recommend unders, but I think the defense for Ohio U has been that good. And if the intensity level on Akron for, of course, in this rivalry game is there, which it should be, then they can probably come up with a couple of defensive stops too. Curtis Rourke's a good quarterback, but Ohio U, by no means an explosive offense, more of a grind you down type offense.
Robbie, staying in the MAC up next, Toledo in Central Michigan, also at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific kick. We are seeing the Rockets -10. If you're looking for the low water mark, that is at Bet Online. We're seeing them as high as -11 out in Vegas, 54.5 being the total. We get the Rockets and the Chippewas here, Rob.
Yeah, I think just the opposite of what I just said for the previous game, Drew. I really like over in this one. Toledo's exploded offensively the last couple of weeks, living up to their expectations with DeQuan Finn and company. It's probably the most explosive offense in this conference. And Central Michigan's been giving up points, you know, like Halloween candy as of late. So I can't see Central Michigan. Again, it is last home game, and I didn't do a full count on the seniors that are involved for Central Michigan, but I just don't know that it matters here, Drew. Now, Toledo, very, very possible that they could go into a shell here because they're in the conference championship game, and there's really no sense getting anybody hurt in a game like this. So maybe it's a get in and get out type of situation. Some of these games on this particular week, you might find yourself better off playing first half bets than full game bets with teams in this particular situation like Toledo, where, you know, it's kind of meaningless. We're already there. Toledo is a 10-1 team that could, I think, they might still be in the running for the Group of 6 New Year's Day bowl bid. If they finish it out strong at 12-1, maybe they would be. But you can't guarantee that they're going to go a full 60 minutes in blowout fashion. So I think the number's low. at 55. I do think full game total still gets over because Central Michigan produces theirs. And, for all the praise I'm giving Toledo's offense, the defense hasn't been all that great the last couple of weeks, and Central Michigan can't put points on the board. I would like it both ways, Drew. First half over, full game over. I would be a little leery if you're thinking about betting side. I'd be a little leery of the favorite full game just because if they're ahead, they likely pull starters to make sure they're healthy for the MAC championship game.
Okay, so just maybe circle the first half there, guys. Robbie, you brought up a good point. I mean, Toledo, 10-1 on the season, 7-0 in conference. I haven't heard many people talk about Toledo Rockets possibly being that like group of 5 team representing them on a New Year's Day bowl. You think it's a legitimate shot, to kind of overtake? Who else would it be? Tulane, couple others.
Yeah, whoever comes out of the AAC, right, because they're in kind of a logjam up top. SMU under consideration.
Yeah.
Like you said, Tulane. I think a couple of weeks ago, Air Force was there, but then their quarterback, Zach Larrier, got hurt. They're no longer there. So the list is shortened, and all you can do is win and see what happens. I think because of Thanksgiving week, we're doing this show on Tuesday, so we haven't seen the college football rankings yet. But if Toledo is working their way up, and if they're, one of the top 2 group of 6 teams as far as those rankings are concerned, certainly the chances there. We'll see how it goes, but they're well respected, that's for sure. Maybe not nationally, but certainly amongst the MAC and guys who really follow college football.
Yeah, and Rob, just quickly, do you remember a MAC team ever representing the group of 5? Yeah, this would be the first one, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think who. Boy, even I can't believe Mountain West would send anybody. This is a good question, Drew, because Conference USA, who are they going to send? Toledo's got as good a shot as I think. First and foremost, it would be the AAC winner, and especially if it's SMU, because I think if my power ratings were any basis for this, SMU is the highest rated group of 6 team right now. So if they make it through, probably them. If Tulane makes it through, Willie Fritz probably goes. UTSA was a little shaky in the beginning, but maybe they could even go if they win the AAC. Again, Toledo's there, though.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. The Liberty Flames.
Yeah, they're there.
New Mexico State, who just beat Auburn, unfortunately.
Oh, my goodness, Drew.
How about that, Rob? That was ugly, huh?
Jerry Kill.
Oh, man. And another thing here, guys, before we move on, Toledo, their only loss, Rob, the first week of the season at Illinois by 2 points. Right. Oh, man, that's their only loss, a 2-point loss to a Big Ten team. So watch out there, guys, for the Rockets. Speaking of the Big Ten, Rob, I cannot believe this total. 12 noon Eastern here, Iowa and Nebraska. We're seeing the Cornhuskers -2, -2.5 at Bet Online. And 26 is the total, Rob. That's the whole game total, everything included. Both teams scoring for all 4 quarters, 26. That's the lowest total I've ever seen in a football game, Rob. I'll throw it over to you. Anything Iowa and Nebraska?
Well, and just think, Drew, I know Brian Ferentz is leaving as offensive coordinator after the season, but the contract he signed with the university to start the season was Iowa will average 25 points per game this year or else I lose my job. And not only aren't they averaging 25, game totals are 25, for goodness sake. So, I mean, he certainly hasn't done the job, but Iowa keeps winning games, right? And I think they're in the Big Ten championship game. It'll be them against whoever wins the East. Certainly a down year for Wisconsin has helped Iowa to get to this stage without scoring any points whatsoever. But, they win games the way they win them. And unlike what I said earlier about maybe pulling starters here, I don't know that Iowa will pull starters here in this game against Nebraska. I think it remains a close game to the end. These games generally are close. This Iowa-Nebraska rivalry is generally close. So I don't know, Drew. There's not a lot to choose from here, but the sight of Iowa as an underdog, simply because they're in the Big Ten title game, I don't think is good enough reason to bet Nebraska. They've done nothing this year under Matt Rule to suggest that they should be favored against anybody.
Yeah, a little head scratching there for sure, Robbie. TCU, Oklahoma up next. Big 12 action here. At least Oklahoma's I guess, last regular season Big 12 game. Minus 10-point home favorites, 63 being the total. So TCU at Oklahoma, also 12 noon Eastern here, Rob.
Yeah, it's hard for me to comment here, Drew, because I don't know the status of Dillon Gabriel, the starting quarterback of Oklahoma. Left the game in the first half on Saturday, was replaced in the second half, full second half, by a true freshman, Jackson Arnold, who they really didn't trust to throw the football. He goes 5 of 9 for 33 yards, and Oklahoma hung on. I think Oklahoma had a pick six in that game that went 100 yards to help the cause. They only won by 7 points. So without Dillon Gabriel, it's hard to forecast anything without real knowledge of what he's going to do. If he's in the game and he's healthy, you probably like this to be an up and down game. If you know something I don't, you know he's going to play. You're probably getting the best of the number right now if you're going to play total over. TCU, you know what? Without Gabriel, I would probably like TCU as well. So like I say, it's hard to comment this early in the week without full knowledge on whether he's going to play, Joe. I think he's that important to this team, especially just from seeing that game last week and knowing that head coach Brett Venables and the OC, they really didn't trust the true freshman to put the ball in the air. Oklahoma probably can't win this game solely by running the football. So this will be interesting to see how Gabriel's injury status turns out.
Good breakdown there, Robbie, at Rob Veno Sports on Twitter. Guys, check them out, wagertalk.com. Wager Talk's #1 profit leader in college football over the last 9 weeks. Obviously knows his college football here. We are brought to you by BetOnline, betonline.ag, sponsor of the podcast. You're looking for a sports book this weekend, go check them out, guys. The game starts here, betonline.ag. And Viva Tequila Seltzer, guys, go check them out, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Flavors pair perfectly with their artisanal Blanco tequila for subtle and refreshing drinks. vivatequilaseltzer.com. 3:30 Eastern here, Robbie. Utah State and New Mexico. Aggies -6.5, pretty much across the board. But if you actually want to look to bet on Utah State, speaking of Bet Online, they are the low water mark here, -6-point road favorites, 61.5 being the total. We're talking Utah State and New Mexico, Rob.
Yeah, and you know what, Drew? I have to wonder if last week's New Mexico win over Fresno State wasn't a turn of the corner at season's end by Danny Gonzalez's team, or if it wasn't just a one-off mirage. But I watched that game, and New Mexico was dominant. I mean, if they could ever get out of their own way and not commit a penalty, they would have beat Fresno State even worse than they beat him. Running back Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt was unbelievable in that game. The Lobos' offensive line was like a road grader. They ran over Fresno State. And defensively, they shut them down, which is kind of crazy because New Mexico is one of the worst defenses in that conference. So maybe it was because Logan Fife was the quarterback for the other side. Mikey Keene did come in really late in that game, the starting quarterback for Fresno, to try and bail them out, but he couldn't. Dylan Hopkins, Drew, you remember him from UAB? That's the quarterback at New Mexico right now. Looked pretty good throwing the football. I'm tempted to say that in New Mexico offensively looked really good, which would put me squarely on over here because Utah State in last week's game should have had a lot more points than they did. And of course, they're a point scoring machine, but they committed 4 turnovers, and about 3 of those were really costly. Times when they were going to score points and they didn't because they turned it over against Boise. Flip that coin and see how terrible their defense was. Boise State ran for like 350 yards. If they did that last week, and if New Mexico's performance last week is any indication, New Mexico's going to run for 250, 300 here as well. I'm probably going to look toward over in this game before it goes up even further. I could see this thing ending up in the 35-33 range. And my last look, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was like 62, the total in this game. I think that's a little low.
Yeah, I'm seeing 61.5. Okay, so maybe look for some points.
And check
there.
your weather. Check your weather real quick because who the heck knows in those Mountain West games this time of year.
Rob, when do you like to check the weather? Like the morning of the game, or will you kind of rely on your expert weatherman ability like Thursday, what day does it kind of matter to you?
I do check it probably like Wednesday, Drew. This week, I'll probably check it tonight for all of these games that go on Friday. And then what I like to do is go through hourly forecasts to see during the game time, that 4-hour period, what it looks like then. And they don't always hold true, but you get a pretty good gauge on what's going to happen there. So I would look for that. Las Cruces, not as bad of a venue as maybe Logan, Utah would be. But again, or excuse me, Albuquerque. Not as bad as Las Cruces, New Mexico State. Gee, got Jerry Kill on my mind now. It's not as bad as Logan, Utah would be, but still, you need to check the Mountain West towns.
Rob, next game up, it's the Battle Line Rivalry, one that you know a bunch about. 4:00 Eastern here, 127, 128, guys. Missouri and Arkansas, 54.5 being the total, -7.5 actually at most shops. That is the Missouri Tigers, the Battle Line Rivalry here, Rob. And I watched pretty much every play of that Missouri-Florida game. Great game. Missouri's pretty good, Rob. That defensive front, it's they got some guys going to be playing on Sundays for sure, Rob. What are you thinking about Missouri and Arkansas?
Boy, and their offense is as good as advertised. I mean, they've been this way now for 7-8 weeks, and it's funny to say that you could have a top 10 team in the nation that's kind of going under the radar for how good they are, but Missouri's kind of going under the radar. Quarterback Brady Cook, the key to everything. He's been sensational this year, but the fact that they have they had a couple extra wide receivers step up and really do the job to help support Luther Burden, because, of course, Luther Burden will be an NFL. If he's not a first-round pick, I'd be surprised. But Theo Weiss has been tremendous. And, of course, the running of Cody Schrader. I mean, it's tough to pick something here to stop Drew. And Arkansas is not going to stop any of it, I don't think. The question is, can the Arkansas Razorbacks keep up? They went through the offensive coordinator switch, right? They fired Dan Enos. They do a little bit better. I'm so surprised, again, watching enough of Missouri this year. Any game that's got a price tag where total is concerned of like mid-50s, like this one does, 54.5, to me just seems too low. Missouri, you can almost count on them against a defense like this for 34, 35 plus. They're going to get theirs. Can their defense hold up on the road against Arkansas? And Arkansas can probably get their share as well. If they get to the 24-point mark, this game goes over. I think they do. I'm going to probably play this one early in the week. Drew, we are early in the week because I just don't see any way, unless weather is bad. Again, I'm going to give that weather caution. But if I check weather tonight and I don't see any problems, I think this is a sure over.
All right, Rob. Good stuff, man. A couple games left here, guys. We got Air Force and Boise State up next. 129, 130, 1 o'clock Pacific kick. Boise, -6.5 point home favorites on the blue turf, 46 being the total. You mentioned Air Force's quarterback being banged up. That guy, Larrier, he was awesome. I mean, they were undefeated with him. Robbie, what are you thinking here with Air Force going on the road in Boise?
They're a different team. They're just a different team without Zach Larrier. That offense doesn't go the way it was going. And coming into the season, of course, he was replacing the previous starter. And I always say about these Service Academy quarterbacks, Drew, if they can complete the open pass, that's always there, right? The go route is always there. The post pattern, it's always wide open. It's just some years they have guys that can hit it, and some years they have guys that can't. Air Force had them one who could hit it, and now they lost him. We'll see if he comes back here. I looked right before we came on this segment. He's still listed as questionable for this week. He's such a big piece of that offense. You'll have to check further into it. Boise State right now, offensively humming. The run game for them has been particularly good. I think I mentioned it earlier. They ran all over Utah State last week. Air Force much better defensively than Utah State, but still, you probably get into a little bit of a score fest here if Larrier plays. If he doesn't play, I have to like Boise State in this game. But again, much like I said about Dylan Gabriel, it's really hard to get a opinion with any conviction without knowing the status of this quarterback. So we'll wait and see. But right now, what I saw was he's listed as questionable. And it's real hard, Drew, over the years to get injury information out of the Air Force Academy. Like you just never know what's going on there. Unlike some other programs that get a lot of coverage. So we'll see if we can figure it out, but I would wait on Larrier's status.
Rob, we got 131, 132 up next, guys, and then we'll hit it's Texas Tech, Texas, then we'll get Penn State, Michigan State, then we're gonna get a best bet from Robbie and then head out of here and bring in a big man on campus for part number 2. Robbie's got some family to get to here, making the traveling during Thanksgiving weekend. Rob, we got Texas Tech and Texas, 7:30 Friday night. So playing under the lights here in Austin, 53.5 being the total, Texas minus 13. I believe this rivalry name is the Chancellor Spurs is what they're playing for. But Texas Tech and Texas here, Rob. I do want to throw this out. Texas Tech versus UCF, another great game that I was watching on Saturday. This Texas Tech running back, man, he's pretty good. Talking about playing on Sundays, he likely will be. I don't know if he's going to be enough, maybe enough to stay within 2 touchdowns at Texas, Rob.
There you go, Drew. I mean, you take the number one key that I have in these notes here on this game. Taj Brooks is the running back's name for Texas Tech. And since Joey McGuire took over in Lubbock as head coach, they've sort of gone to an offense that's really predicated on the run. That's not to say that they run it 70% of the time, but they need to run to be successful off of the run, where in years past they were just full out air raid. The problem for Taj Brooks this week is Texas' run defense is superior. They only allow, in conference play, Drew, they've given up 82 rushing yards per game, and that's 42 yards less than the second best team, which is Iowa State. They clock in at 124, so 42 yards better. If Texas can take Brooks out of this thing, it's doubtful to me whether or not Baron Morton throwing the football is going to beat Texas in this game. And Texas is beatable through the air, but they want to run it with Brooks. And if they can't, which is a big question mark here because Texas is that good defensively. Texas also great in the red zone. I had some red zone numbers on Texas defense. Number 1 in the Big 12, as opposed to Texas Tech, which is number 11 in the Big 12. Texas Tech has allowed 40 trips into the red zone, and 55% of those have resulted in touchdowns. Again, it's 11th out of a 14-team league. If Texas gets inside there, they probably score as well. I think there's a little bit of trouble for Tech in coverage in this game. For anybody who's seen a lot of Texas this year, the 2 wide receivers, Xavier Worthy, who I really like, and of course it's hard not to like A.D. Mitchell as well, but they put a lot of pressure on the defense. And with Quinn Ewers back, we'll see. They did lose their star running back, Jonathan Brooks. He didn't play last week, won't play for the remainder of the season. Texas still loaded at running back. Texas at home has been really good, Drew. They won 4 of their 5 contests by either 21 to 29 points. The one they didn't win by 21 to 29 points at home was against K-State when they played with the true freshman quarterback when Ewers was out, and they still won that game. 33 to 30. K-State very good. Tech has been bad on the road. I just think there's a lot of things here that add up to Texas in, I won't call it a rout, but certainly more than 13. I think they can win this one by 17, 18 points. So I like the Texas side.
Guys, last game here, 133, 134, 7:30 Eastern. Penn State and Michigan State playing for the Land Grant Trophy here. And I believe this is at Ford Field. Quote unquote neutral site, but minus 21. That's the Nittany Lions as the road favorite. 42.5 being the total. I'll tell you this though, guys, if you like the under, you can get it at 43.5 at BetOnline. BetOnline.ag, sponsor of the podcast. Every game on the board. Robbie, Penn State and Michigan State here for the Land Grant Trophy.
It almost seems like you could just take Penn State when they're this heavy of a favorite this year, Drew, except the Indiana game, right? The Indiana game, they didn't perform well, but they've been a bully type team all season long. Can't beat the big boys, but they can slaughter the little guys. And Michigan State certainly qualifies as one of the little guys this year. I wonder if moving this game out of East Lansing helps Michigan State in this game. I really don't know that Ford Field helps. Perfect climate probably helps Penn State a little bit more in this game. They're going to run the football, and their defensive front is as good as any. So I have a hard time laying 21, but I don't want Michigan State in this game either.
Okay. Rob, awesome stuff, man. That is segment number 1 here, guys. And we'll start off with Oregon State, Oregon tomorrow with a big man on campus. But Rob, do you have a best bet here in this section of games?
You know, we talked about it earlier, Drew, and I'm just kind of stunned at the number. I just feel like they're not getting their due respect as an offensive unit. I think Missouri, Arkansas gets over 54.5 rather easily, with Missouri doing a lot of the heavy lifting and Arkansas following suit. Somewhere, 41-24 wouldn't surprise me in that game. That's 65. That's well over the total. So that's what I'm going to leave you for a holiday best bet, Missouri, Arkansas over the total.
Over 54.5, guys. You get that at Bet Online. Missouri and Arkansas over. Check out Viva Tequila Seltzer, vivatequilaseltzer.com. Our belief is to live long, live well, and live it up. Viva up. And betonline.ag, guys. The game starts here. Betonline.ag. Rob Veno, Wager Talk's #1 college football handicapper over the last 9 weeks. Go check him out over there on Twitter at Rob Veno Sports as well. Robbie, I know you're getting out of here. Some Thanksgiving dinner to get to, but any final thoughts before we shut it down?
Yeah, let's just wish all the viewers and listeners to the podcast, Drew. Thanks to all you guys. Happy holidays. Happy Thanksgiving. We will. Oh, there we go. I got to give a ZOU back to Brandon, Mizzou graduate. Certainly another guy who's taken a lot of fun in this year for Mizzou. But again, to the folks who follow us, Drew, and those that have done so for a long, long time, happy Thanksgiving. Hopefully we get you on the right track to cashing tickets for this week, right through Saturday afternoon. And do check the weather. I'm just from a football perspective, from a betting perspective, I would say just check the weather in a lot of these cities. I didn't do a bunch of that homework prior to this segment, but as you mentioned, I'm going to travel. I go away on Thanksgiving. They come to me on Christmas, so I'll be here for Christmas.
Awesome, Rob. Well, drive safe, man. Have a happy Thanksgiving to you. Happy Thanksgiving out there, guys. And we will be back tomorrow with the last 3 parts of Every Game on the Board, wherever you're downloading your podcast at. Every Game on the Board. For Robbie Veno, I'm Drew Martin. We'll be back tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in. Cash those tickets.